Tracy and I were both heading into Seattle on the 1 line, so I recruited her for a chat. She told me about her beliefs in the value of celebrating people as they age. My name is Nick, and this is Conversations on the Coast.
Tell you that I didn't take my allergy pill this morning,
Okay.
and so I have a little thing, but it's not.
I'm not too worried. Yeah, with the onset of fall, all of a sudden my lungs are crazy. So it's a constant challenge.
I am going to King County, where I work for the Department of Community and Human Services.
Oh, nice. I work for Expedia, and so I go up to. I actually switched to a bus at Pioneer Square, but that gives us 15, 20 minutes if we need it. So yeah. So what's something that you believe that you'd be interested in exploring the reasons behind?
I believe. Sorry. I hope I forgot. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go get some coffee, like little vitamin C things.
Yeah.
I believe that, and this isn't really knowledge. Maybe let me explore something more deep than that. I am a proponent of everybody should celebrate aging,
Okay.
even though we have our own ageist like fears inside ourselves, which are existential, but also societal and influenced by ageism, racism, class, all those things that go into how you feel about yourself, your experiences in the world.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, you and I are both on the. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're on the high side of 40. To keep it conservative.
I turned 57 the other day.
Oh, congratulations! Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to someone who's 57 the other day. I've turned 61 this year. So
okay.
Yeah, we're working on that climb. Is this something that you have always believed, or is this something that's kind of grown as you've aged?
I've worked in the field of aging since I was 22, so it started with just a love of connecting with really, really old folk.
Yeah,
and to the point where they didn't know how old they were, and they didn't know their gender, and they didn't know themselves as a self, as that same self anymore.
And if you don't mind talking up a little bit,
I don't want a little uncomfortable talking so loud in the public place because it just feels like we're invading other people's spaces.
That's fine. So I might just creep up on you with my okay. So why is this belief important to you?
Because everybody ages. It's a human experience, and I think that we cut ourselves off from the last parts of our lives if we don't embrace the fact that we change.
Yeah.
That age happens toward death, and
right.
Either you're going to slowly age and your body is going to do its thing, or you're going to have a sudden death. And so those of us who are lucky enough to live into old age should embrace that regardless of our changes in our bodies and our what do you call it? Our regard by society, like our influence in the world.
Okay. How does this personally impact you?
Because I look at myself in the mirror every day and say, how the fuck did I get to look like that? Well, I know I look like that. It's like, wow. Oh, but this is the world and the field you work in, so you need to get over that. But it's hard. There's competing what society tells us and what the things are that make value aren't the things that you see in the mirror as you grow older.
Right. How does society benefit if we have more regard for aging?
Because there's a lot of cool things people have experienced and done and can give back to the community. And it's also just a human thing. And I believe in the cycle of, like if the humans are doing well for themselves, then that's helping just the energetic cycle of existence, the nature and the mix of all that, and that turns what I believe is what you might call God with small g.
Okay. So if we look at this as a value, and we look at kind of a continuum between a value that makes you feel good, maybe a value that's a moral virtue, and maybe a value that's a moral duty. Where do you see this as a value along that continuum?
Well, I mean, if I was true about it, I would say it's a moral duty because we are
Columbia City.
I think we're obligated to care for life, whatever it is, to the end of that life in a way that is respectful and honors that existence. And so that is true for ourselves as human bodies growing older, and it's true for other people as human bodies growing older. And so if we are dealing with our ageism internally and in society, then we are doing that duty to honor the ongoing existence of life.
Okay. So where would you do you believe that people in general or individuals need to change their position on aging,
Um,
given that society is made up of individuals?
yeah, I mean, yes, but it's a what comes first kind of thing.
At this point in the conversation, Tracy told me a story about a relative that she didn't want me to include in the podcast. We'll resume the conversation after that interlude. Talk more. So I'm interested in diving a little bit deeper about. So I find the idea that you could change society without necessarily changing individual minds. I find that interesting. So why do you believe that that's true? And what would that look like in society?
I don't think I can quite, that's not, I don't think I mean it that black and white. But
Sure.
I think that we are all going to continue to have an existential experience of ourselves as, oh shit, I'm getting closer to this, what the hell? So that's not going to change.
Yeah.
But you could, individually, you see those people who say, screw that, I don't care. I'm going to be this dynamic old person or this feeble old person and not care and just be myself. And then you see those people, and that's kind of what helps change it. But I think still inside you're still going to have the existential angst of getting closer to death and physically seeing that and understanding that changed you. So,
If you think about people who are like young voters, for example, what would you say to them to get them to maybe to vote in favor of things that help people who are
because we're all gonna, unless you die, you're all gonna get there, and so you're building a society for yourself, your future self.
Given what we know about young people and how they think, why is thinking about their future and when they might be old, why is that a good reason for them to believe in graceful aging is not the right thing, in celebrating aging now?
Well, my daughter is an example. Her favorite person in the whole wide world is her 88-year-old grandma, who is this really dynamic, but you know, you can see her, she's not out there running marathons, but she's being a cool person, being herself, being hilarious. And so that puts in my daughter's idea that there's some respect there to have for people. And then she imagines herself, she seriously says, oh, when I'm going to be like Noni when I'm that age, and I'm going to do this. She has a whole little scenario, she says, about that pictures herself growing older. And I just think if we're, like, it goes back to that respect across life. If you're respecting old, and you're respecting young, and you're respecting all people of all different abilities and different backgrounds and different communities and different identities. So it's one of those pathways that we build in our brains about understanding that life is more than who we are and the people we see in the mirror. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm
going back to that.
I'm reading into this. You haven't actually talked about education, but it seems like there's an educational aspect to this. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a possibility. I am teaching an adulthood and aging class for the first time this fall, and
fantastic!
Focused.
So you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Baby, yeah. And it is just building, figuring out, like, this is us, and so don't separate yourself from that. And
Yeah.
see that person, then that is you.
Okay. Um,
But it can't be like
Yeah.
you will respect age and you will stop being ableist. It has to be like this engaged experience. It's like we've talked about the young people, and for some reason, some people really like to appreciate the idea that you have to vote in order to make a change, and other people say, I don't see myself in the system, so I'm not gonna vote. Screw that.
Yeah.
We're all screwed. And it's just something internal to people, and so you have to give them an experience, and then they take it or they don't.
Right.
Or it takes.
Yeah.
It takes.
Okay. So, I feel like one topic that we're kind of circling around but not addressing is empathy.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. And what role does empathy play?
It plays a huge role because you're able to, like, that's not me yet, but I have this, it could be me, where it's like, that's just another being in the world, that's another human, so I feel for them, even though I may not understand them at all, or even though their experience might be grossing me out right now.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I think it starts with empathy. And maybe that's the thing, it's like you have to have empathy for yourself. Like as we, in our generations, where we are in the aging thing, it's that time where you start to look like, I don't know. Who is this in the, like the, going back to that, who is this in the mirror thing, and maybe you have parents still alive or not, but it's like I see them, with them, then you have kids that are in high school or college or whatever, and so we're in that phase of really, I think this is the prime time to engage people in the conversation about what is aging for them.
Yeah. So, getting back to like, how do we incent people?
This is the one line.
I think I asked kind of like, what do you say to young people to get them? How do you motivate them? Looking at it in terms of, because we are talking about epistemology, how do you justify your beliefs? What do you think would be the justification for, say, someone who's 20? How would they justify to themselves, in a lasting way, a respect for aging that would be useful?
I'm just trying to figure out how I did it when I was 22 and walked into a nursing home and saw these people that hadn't had their hair washed and didn't look like, your typical grandma. They were struggling, and there was still empathy there, and it's just.
So why was your experience in a nursing home a good reason for you to believe in caring for older people?
Because, it just goes back to care for all of life.
Mm-hmm.
And this person shouldn't be alone.
But which comes first? Did you learn that you need to care from all of life because you saw what you saw in the nursing home? Or do you think you already had that care for all life? Like there's another chicken egg problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, because I grew up with grandmothers who were probably our age, and I thought they were old, and aunties, and we had a lot of respect for them, but I don't know where that came from. But I think about this all the time, so it's appreciate the little chance to do it.
So there's a value in there somewhere, and we haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, right?
But I don't rely. If you can, by the next, I usually get off at the stop, but I can get off at. I'll go to Pioneer Square.
Yeah, either.
If you want.
I think this seems. I feel like we've gotten to a good point. So
thank you.
If we want to wrap up here, that's good.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
You've been listening to Conversations on the Coast, a series from Washington State featuring civil conversations using street epistemology to explore what people believe and why. Find out more at streetepistemology.com.